Hello there, GIS travelers and parents. I am going to make this very quick, but please keep in mind, in addition to this video, I've provided you with a direct link to access the slides and several other supporting documents that you can access in preparation for the Q&A that we are going to have on September the 30th. I will mention that again at the end of this presentation. I am Tracy Harding, the lead teacher for GIS, if you're just curious about the name behind the voice. All right, with that, this presentation is going to cover 4 different things. We're going to look at some pre-trip information and things we should do in preparation. Then we're going to look at our finalized itinerary. We'll spend a bit of time looking at behavior expectations and some important travel tips. And then finally, we'll wrap up with some post-trip notes that students could consider. I am hoping that both students and families are watching this video, or at least look through the presentation so that everyone knows the expectations. So with that, looking at some of the things you guys should do before we head on to this trip. First of all students need to make sure that they have spoken with their teachers and try to get their work prior to leaving, right? We're not just going to go on this trip and then have all this makeup work to do when we get back. Please speak to your teachers before we go on the trip. See what information that you can get or what you can access on Schoology. We will have many hours on the bus ride to New York City, as well as many hours on the bus ride home from New York City. So you'll have tons of time to get some work done. All right, with that, a mandatory requirement is that you submit a notarized SMCPS field trip form. And in addition, the supplemental behavior contract, the contract itself does not need to be notarized, just signed by the student and the parent or guardian. But that SMCPS or Leonardtown High School field trip form must be notarized, and it must be submitted by October 3rd, or I am not permitted by St. Mary's County policy to take you on my field trip. So that is a mandatory. Both of those forms will be attached in the email in which you got this link. Okay. Our tour of the United Nations does require masking as well as proof of full COVID vaccination. So if you are unwilling or unable to provide for any reason a copy of that COVID vaccination status, when we get to the United Nations building, you will not be permitted to enter, and instead you will take a walk down the East River, which is close to the building itself. If you have any concerns or questions about that, please contact me. A photocopy or a picture of that COVID vaccination card is acceptable. You do not have to have the actual card with you, and I can understand we wouldn't want to lose that, so that makes sense. Please do make sure that you have updated all of your medical information with the school and filled out appropriate paperwork. Students are not permitted to carry their own prescription medication per SMCPS policy. Therefore, chaperones, SMCPS chaperones, myself, Miss Harding, will need to have that medical information, and I will be speaking with the school nurse to make sure I have everybody's important paperwork, and assigned chaperones will be managing and holding on to those medications throughout the duration of our trip. I do also ask, if possible, if students can bring me $10 to $15 cash. They can do that at any point prior to leaving for the trip up until the day that we leave for the trip. We like to use this to tip our bus drivers, our tour guides, and the hotel staff that takes care of our rooms for us, as these are not included in our fee. However, all of our tipping and gratuity at our dinner reservations is included in the fee that you should have already paid. Okay, with that, things to pack. I'm not going to read through all of this, but you can access it. I really do want to stress, do not pack anything excess. Don't pack excess things. We don't got time for all this stuff. We're going to be in the hotel long enough to go to sleep, to eat breakfast, and head on out for the next day. So no need for extra stuff in that regard. Please do make sure that you bring a mask. It is required at the United Nations, but right, COVID is still a thing. So just to be safe, you never know when you might be asked to put your mask on. So please do bring it. All right, comfortable walking shoes are a must. We are going to be leaving our hotel early every morning and getting back late every single night. So you're going to want to make sure that you've got some comfy shoes on while we are out and about in the city. I would also suggest that you bring at least one outfit that you think is both comfortable and presentable for when we attend the 1776 musical. All right, gonna kind of skip down. Make sure you have some snack for travels. Make sure you're bringing your backpack with all of your SMCPS paperwork and that type of thing, and any extra money you might want to have for lunch, for souvenirs, those types of things. All right, so now let's look at that finalized itinerary. I know you saw the basic itinerary when I introed the trip itself, and it's within the ETA login when you look at that. So first and foremost, the hotel that we're staying at is the Fairfield Inn, Newark Airport. The address is here. So parents and guardians, if you want to get that down, in case for some reason you need to make that contact, it is there for you. It'll also be in the final detailed itinerary that I'm going to attach in PDF form for you to review on your own. With that being said, I did put some very basic highlights here for us to look at what we're doing each day. Again, I am going to provide the more detailed itinerary in the PDF form that you can take a look at. Some highlights on day one. It is very important that students arrive by 6:15 at the very, very latest. Chaperones will arrive starting around 6 a.m. The bus is pulling out at 6:30 sharp, so it's important that we're there in time to get on the bus, get in our seats, and get our luggage stowed underneath of our buses. We're anticipated arriving in New York City on that first day at 12 p.m. And I will make sure that I have students contact their families to let them know that we have arrived safely. I do typically suggest bringing snacks. Sometimes we stop halfway to the city and sometimes we don't. So just kind of be prepared to have something to eat for that purpose, and a little bit of cash in case we do stop and you think you might want to pick up something extra. With that, you can kind of go ahead and read what it is that we're doing. Dinner is included that night. We are going to eat in Little Italy, which is sure to be a pretty yummy Italian meal. Gluten-free options do exist, and that is fully included in the price that you've already paid. We should be back in the hotel by 8 p.m. on that first day of travel. The next morning, we're going to get up. We're going to hit several great places. Breakfast will be served in the hotel. I have checked with them to make sure that they have accommodations and overflow seating, depending on the variety. The number of students and other travelers that are there. We will also probably do a slightly staggered breakfast time just to ensure that it's not overcrowded at the breakfast area at any given time. This day, right, we will stop in Greenwich Village and Soho. Students will be able to grab lunch independently, so they're going to need to bring some cash for that. I do want to address the independent component. They're going to grab it on their own. Students are expected to stay within eyesight of their chaperone at all times, but we will cover that a little bit later. Okay. On this second day of travel, we will be eating dinner at the Hard Rock Cafe. Dinner will be followed by our Broadway show. We are seeing 1776. Apparently, they have updated it to be a little bit more Hamilton, upbeat, current style, so I'm really interested to see the new rendition that is available now. That evening, we should arrive home, back to the hotel, around 11 p.m. Next morning, again, breakfast in the hotel, same as we had before. This evening, we're doing dinner at Ellen's Stardust Diner. You will be getting a separate request from me to enter what your meal choice is for that evening, because I have to submit it ahead of time. So please do keep an eye out for that meal request form for all attending members so that I can submit that to our tour company who will submit it to the hotel. This evening, we will return back to the hotel around 9:30 p.m., which is a little bit earlier, because on the final day of our trip, breakfast is at 6:30. Everyone is expected to be checked out of their rooms by 7:10. Today will be the big tour to the United Nations, which is awesome. We'll grab some lunch at Grand Central Station. Students will need their own money for that. And then we'll depart for back home around 2:30, stopping for dinner, again, on the student's own dime. I did not include it on this particular slide. However, we should arrive back home around 9 p.m. Looking at some behavior expectations, this is pretty important. We are going to have a zero tolerance policy. Attached to the field trip form, you will also see a behavior contract that I need you to sign. I talked about that a little bit earlier. These are just some of the highlights. Basically, students really do need to be on their best behavior. They need to make sure they are in their rooms, that other people are not in their rooms. If there is a major violation of expectations, parents and guardians will be called and asked to please come retrieve their child in New York City. So, violation of SMCPS policies will absolutely positively not be tolerated on our trip. Final little notes that I kind of want to talk about post-trip. Once we get home, please encourage the students, if you're actually listening to this, please thank whatever chaperone you have been with over the course of 4 days. They have chosen to give up their time voluntarily to go on this trip to make sure that you can go to New York City and have an awesome time. And I'm sure that they would appreciate letting them know that you appreciate them doing so on your behalf. Also, you would not be on this trip if your family did not support you and provide the permission and possibly the money to go. So please do thank your family for supporting you in your travels as well. Finally, even though you should have requested work from your teachers prior to going on the trip, you should make sure upon return that you check back in with those teachers, submit whatever work you have completed, and ask if there are any other items that you need to complete to make sure you are in line with the rest of the peers in your class. With that, that is all I have in this direct little presentation. If you have got questions, a couple of things you can do. One, you can shoot me an email. My email address is right on there. Additionally, I am going to, on September the 30th, have a live virtual Q&A through Google Meet session from 12:35 to 1:05 p.m. Feel free to pop in, ask whatever questions that you have. And I am looking forward to an awesome trip to New York City here in just a couple of weeks. See and talk to you soon.